Over the last 3 years, the Penrith Panthers have done what most people have thought has been the unthinkable in the NRL salary cap era and won 3 competitions in a row. And they're vying for a 4th, and it's going to be their toughest ever yet. But here's 6 reasons why I think they can do it. First reason is going to be the well-publicised departure of Jerome Leuluai. Now, he is an integral part of this team. He's been there since the beginning in 2020 of this incredible run that the Penrith Panthers have had. He's also best mates with a lot of the guys in the team. Obviously, there's been a few of those that have already left, but look at your Brian Tottos, your Nathan Clearys. They've been playing halves football together since they were 14 and 15 years of age. That's a long time together. That's, I think, off their ages, that's about 10 or 11 years, and they're going to want to go out with a bang and finish with a premiership win. I also think that this season, Jerome Leuluai has shown that he can step up and be the man. He's led the Penrith Panthers to potentially a second place finish, depending on what happens this weekend in round 27. He also won a State of Origin series without Nathan Cleary this season, and has also taken Samoa to a World Cup final playing 7. So I don't think that needs to be questioned anymore. For me, honestly, next year, the question is going to be, can Cleary play without Leuluai? Because we haven't really seen him achieve success without Leuluai as his right-hand man. But anyway, that's not what this year is about. This year is about, so the edge and the backs are all going to want to get around Jerome Leuluai and make sure that he goes out with a bang, as Viliame Kikau and Api Koroisau have done previously, Matt Burton, all these players who have been so integral to the Penrith Panthers. They're going to want to do that one more time with Jerome Leuluai. That leads me straight into reason number 2, another departure. James FisherHarris. Now, while James FisherHarris might have the C next to his name, he's certainly a leader in this Penrith Panthers system, and he just leads by the front through his actions week in, week out. And as much as Jerome Leuluai sort of, obviously within football teams, your backs and your forwards are kind of segregated a little bit. And so all the backs want to get around Jerome Leuluai and spur him on for victory. The forwards are definitely going to want to get around James FisherHarris, and he will lead from the front. Him and Moses Leota always tend to do this come finals time. They're always the elite of the elite in terms of front rows in the NRL competition. However, when it comes to finals time, they just find a new level and exceed that. It's just ridiculous how good James FisherHarris and Moses Leota are. But I think, again, every single year they've sort of had 2 key players leaving the squad. Now, obviously, it's going to be very hard this year. Because the losses they had last year were tremendous, especially Stephen Crichton and Spencer Leniu. They were massive for the Penrith Panthers team, and they managed to rally around and win the comp last year. And I think they're going to be able to do it again this season, just because it's very, very hard to stay up for so long in the NRL, especially with the salary cap. And yes, I guess in a sense you're sort of saying that they've got to buy into getting around someone and giving them a premiership on their way out of the club for, the 3rd year in a row. But I definitely think they can do it. And I think when you have such integral and key parts to these premierships like Jerome Leuluai and James FisherHarris, you want to send them out with a bang. Now, reason number 3 might seem a little bit interesting, but it's on the same lines as sort of a bit of a departure through the club, and that is the BlueBet Stadium or Penrith Stadium redevelopment. I think this is actually going to play a bit more of a role than a lot of people think. Obviously, it's going to be their last game that they play there before the redevelopment, and they go to CommBank Stadium as their home ground for, I think, 3 seasons, if I'm correct. This has been Penrith's core since the very beginning. They're obviously wearing their brown heritage jerseys. The Chocolate Soldiers make their return this weekend. But I think when you look at it, these players, because a lot of them have been brought up through the Penrith system, and not many of them have actually been brought in from outside. They've been playing SG Ball, Harold Matts, Jersey Flegg, all these junior competitions representing Penrith since they were 14, 15, 16. And even the local district grand finals will be played at Penrith Stadium. This stadium, this environment, this culture, it means so much to these players. And they're going to want to, again, send that out in a high. I'm not sure whether they'll be able to play a prelim there, but if they do, I think they're a destined win. We've seen how good their record has been at BlueBet Stadium over the last 4 seasons. But the other thing is, these players are so connected to this area, and Penrith Stadium is an embodiment of that hard-working area in Western Sydney. And I just think that these players are going to turn up, and they're going to want, they're going to want to win for the players that I've just mentioned, but they're going to want to send off the fans out of their home stadium with wins and good memories. And I just think it all sort of a nice swan song for the Penrith Panthers for this season. Obviously, as I said, it's hard to sort of rally around and get up for all these departures year after year after year. And I do think they might struggle next year, but that's for another video. But I do think that this sort of culmination, it all sort of comes together as righto boys, this is our last crack at it with these players in this stadium. Let's go out and win it again. And I think it'll be backed by reason number 4, which is their defensive system. Now, obviously, there's the age-old saying of attack will win your games, but defense will win your premierships. And Penrith Panthers do go into round 27 at least, potentially the finals, having the best defensive system in the comp by the stats, anyway, by the numbers, in terms of points conceded. Now, let me just pull up the NRL ladder, because the Doggies have certainly given them a run for their money in this department this year and have been fantastic. And I think as well, what it shows for Penrith is that despite all the injuries they've had, all the massive personnel, and it shows again how good the Penrith system is of just developing all these players, but it shows that every single player can buy in, because as you always hear commentators and the experts, that sort of thing, say, is that defense is an attitude. And I think a perfect example of that is probably to go back and revert to the Bulldogs a little bit there, because like their personnel changed heaps, and they just got heaps of players that just have heaps of ticker and effort and energy, and have good attitude on defense. So yeah, Penrith Panthers have just conceded 382 points so far this season across 23 games. You do the maths for that one. My brain is not a calculator. But I just think, like, when you've got all these players that buy into this defensive system, this defensive structure, it doesn't matter who's playing out there, they're going to be hard to score points against. And again, in the finals, you might win a game 8-6. Like, what it shows to me as well is they're used to the dogfight, and that's what happens a lot of the time in finals footy. You get all these flamboyant teams throughout the middle of the season when there's teams that are just packing the bags and they don't really want to be there anymore. And these teams look like world beaters, but they haven't been used to that grind, and that's what Penrith Panthers system's built on. And I think, and that's what their last 3 competitions have been built on. Especially that you look at last year's grand final, they were down and out, but they stayed in the fight. They got back into a dogfight, and they came over the top of the Broncos and won again. And I think a similar system will be embodied and presented in 2024. And speaking of last year's grand final, reason number 5 for Penrith winning the comp again is they've just got a winner's mentality now. They are seriously just built off winning. Most teams, all teams, usually, ever, if you're down by 3 tries in the grand final with 20 minutes to go, you're like, well, it was a good year, boys. Is what it is. End up getting beat by 20 or 30. The fact that they came around for that, just because they are seriously a bunch of winners, they don't know how to lose. I think this is the year that they've lost the most out of any of the last 4 seasons, which is just honestly ridiculous. And because considering they've lost absolutely bugger all games, I'll pull it up here in a second. Like, they've lost 7 games all year, which is the second least in the whole competition, and probably, I feel like last couple of years they've lost 4 maybe, which is just ridiculous for the Penrith Panthers. Like, they are seriously built off winning, and when they win, it's still, if it's not exactly perfect, it's not good enough. And I think that's what's going to get them through this postseason, because yes, there's a lot of other teams who are in and around that actually could challenge them this year. I feel like this might be, this is going to be raised just a little bit later, but this is probably the hardest way they're going to have to win a comp so far. And you heard at the end of you heard after their 3 in a row where it felt like sort of job was finished. They got the last 3 in a row title off their big rivals, the Parramatta Eels, and there's interviews with all these players, and they were like, well, next one's St. George, who won 11 in a row. They're not content with winning the 3. They're not content with winning, if they win this season, the 4. They just want to be the best team to ever exist. I think they're the best NRL, team in the NRL era, but you look at some of those records from yesteryear, and they're ridiculous. And that's what these guys are coming for, and I think that's what they're driven by. It's going to be a pretty hard task this year, but again, reason number 5, winner's mentality. And this goes into reason number 6 I've got. This is their hardest run in yet. I think in 2021, they were the clear favourites. 2020, right, we'll go back to 2020, no one really backed them. They were the cool, young, exciting team. Everyone liked them back then. 2021, they were the clear favourites. They beat the Bunnies closely. Bunnies definitely nearly got them that year, but they were certainly the favourites. 2022, let's be honest, it was a walk in the park for them, and that was epitomised in the grand final when they flogged Para. 2023, the Broncos had a chance, but if the Broncos had won, it would have been a massive upset in that grand final. Again, they were the clear favourites. Going into this year's grand final, they're not the favourites. Going into these final series. Sorry, I generalised by saying they're going to make the grand final. The Storm, everyone's got them as the favourites to win the comp. And I think that's what, it's going to drive the Penrith Panthers a bit of the, all right, you don't think we're going to be like we're the best team in the comp this year? Let's show you that we are, and we can win from anywhere. And like I really think that people are writing off Penrith. Yes, Nathan Cleary is probably not going to be as fit as he could be, but an 80% Nathan Cleary is probably better than 95% of halfbacks in the comp. Another reason, maybe I was going to cheeky little reason 7 here, a little bonus reason. The team they lost to in the grand final is the Storm. That's the team that looks like they're seemingly going to be the favourites this year and win the comp. And I feel like that's going to be that bit of revenge, the opportunity to make up for that loss and show them that Penrith Panthers, they're the big dogs. They're the ones who, like, the Storm got to beat the Panthers, not the other way around, if that makes any sense. So they're my 6 reasons why I believe that Penrith Panthers will win the comp in 2024. Let me know what you think. Do you reckon the Panthers will go on to win 4 in a row for the first time since who knows when? You have to go back a long, long way. Or is it just going to be too much of a tall order this year? They do look a bit battered and bruised, but hey, never count these Penrith Panthers out.